world to stage.
Once again, for the Schofield Talks podcast, here's your host, Phil Green.
Hi and welcome to another episode of Schofield Talks. Bit of a special one, this one. Obviously it's following a massive thing that's going on in the UK at the moment to do with Tommy Robinson. Now before I start, I'm going to make the premise: I don't agree with everything that Tommy Robinson has said. I don't agree with everything that he's done. I do agree with some things. It's very similar to what I said in the last episode. It's a sorry state of affairs that we found ourselves in. You need to look at Tommy Robinson not necessarily as an individual person and the actions that he's done, but look at him as a representation of an English citizen, a British citizen. He has been penalised and targeted for over a decade. He's been put into prison and been put into situations which has resulted in him taking severe beatings in prison, and on one occasion nearly getting, I think it was boiling sugar, thrown into his face. Now, before I proceed, my feelings, my heart, my condolences go out to his family for every single day that Tommy is locked up. If he had been locked up for something that could be registered as a direct crime, then fair enough. What we have is an individual who went to a court case in Leeds to report on a story that, to all intents and purposes, and you all need to realise, is going on in most cities around the country, and that is the grooming gangs. Now, it's said that in the majority of these grooming gangs, some of them have targeted and abused English girls, white English girls, some as young as 6, 7, going all the way up. Now, it's true that the majority of these court cases, especially after Rotherham, which was quite a public one, the majority of them have what's called a D section placed on them, or a D notice. This basically means that the press can't report on them, and it makes it a criminal offence to report on them. D notices are generally for the preservance of state secrets, military secrets, intelligence secrets, anything that may threaten the stability of the country, and anything that may compromise ongoing operations. Now, regardless whether the grooming gang case had a D notice placed on it, which, let's be fair, I mean, if the government want to cover it up, they've covered up most of the court cases that have gone on to do with the grooming gangs, because obviously they don't want to be seen that nothing's happened. When a white Englishman who has indecent images on his computer, again, a complete crime. I believe anybody that's, whether you're viewing images, whether you're actually committing any form of paedophilia act, you need to be punished by the law and to the full extent of the law. But you need to look at when a white Englishman gets done for these sorts of things, or even, like I say, just the simple fact of having images, viewing images on his computer, it's publicised. It's in all the papers. And yet you've got massive grooming gangs which consist of 10, 20, 50, 100 gentlemen of a certain descent, targeting hundreds and hundreds of females, using them as sex slaves. Some reports are some of the females were raped and abused up to 20, 30 times a day. And yet our government and our legal system decides to hide those cases because they don't want them publicised. So, the man, Tommy Robinson, he was the person who decided, well, these need to be publicised. The public need to know. And it's not just about who's committed the offences, it's not just about where the gentlemen originate from or what religious views they have. It's about holding our government accountable of how these sort of things have happened, and how the different police forces failed to prevent it, and how social services failed to prevent it, etc. So don't think it's just a target at the people who have carried it out, it's also a target at the establishment for not being there and protecting these girls. So, a D notice was put on a case, Tommy went. If you watch the video or the live stream, you will see there's no incitement from him. There's nothing that would trigger a public order act. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I've seen it, and personally I don't think there is. I've watched commentary by MPs, commentary by some from the legal industry. I really don't know what to say. I kind of wrote some brief points down, but I've rewrote them half a dozen times, and then I thought, sod it, I'll just go with what comes into my head. And what comes into my head is that I am absolutely fucking ashamed. So let's go back to what happened. So Tommy was outside the courthouse. Whilst he was outside the courthouse talking to other people, there were some gentlemen of a certain descent, and I ain't going to mention it because I don't want to be targeted. But basically the defendants in the case were seen at a window making gestures about cutting throats. So Tommy called, well, there was a police officer already outside there. Bit of a strange timing. And he asked the police officer, along with the other two people, they had proof that this was going on, if he would go up there and address them. Is he not going to go and see to them because they're making direct threats? So the police officers went upstairs. They went to the window, either said whatever they said to the defendants. And there's a picture on Twitter, and it's one of those things, but you'll realise why certain details of this whole fiasco are quite hard to find. But there is a picture on Twitter. I should think if you go to tommyrobinson.online, it should be there. If not, email them and tell them, and I'm sure they'll post it. But there's a picture shortly after all this happened with two police officers stood at the window where they tuck their hands in the vest like they're chickens or something, and a gentleman in a gown with a wig on leaning across the window, smiling, looking down at Tommy. And not long after that, the police turned up. 8 police officers, I believe, is what's been said. Although, you got to be careful because the press can't report on any of it. And because the press can't report on any of it, because there's been a Section D put on the actual arrest of Tommy, then certain people have got to be careful. Anybody who maybe was there or who was inside the court, and any form of reporter. Now luckily I'm here just speaking my opinion. I'm not a journalist, I'm not a reporter, and I haven't received a Section D because I'm a nobody. The police turned up, and I believe it was 8 officers. Didn't really speak to Tommy a great deal. Meat wagon turned up and Tommy got slung in the back of it under suspicion of breach of the peace. Now from there onwards it's a little bit hazed. However, the facts that I do know are, he then went to a court. From watching some of the footage, I believe the court was Hull Crown Court. He was put in front of a judge, not on grounds of breach of the peace. We're unsure on what the actual charge he was put in front of the judge was, but however the judge said you was on a suspended sentence for contempt of court for recording previously at a grooming gang trial. You've breached that, so you are now going to go straight to prison and carry out your sentence. Now I'm sure some of you listening will accept that. They'll go, well, fair enough, if he breached it, then he has to go. From start to finish, from him getting put in the back of the meat wagon to him on his way to court, my mistake, on his way to prison, was 4 hours. Within that 4 hours, there was already a D-section notice already enacted. There was already a court booked, and there was already a cell booked. Now, if that doesn't say that was pre-planned, I don't know what is. Now, Tommy's known to be able to drum up a lot of support in things like this. He has a lot of support, and whenever he's gone into previous court cases, he's been able to get some half-decent legal representation. On this occasion, he was refused his own legal representation, and it was rushed through, and he was given basically like a legal aid solicitor. Now, obviously, because of the Section D, we don't know what got said within the court, and trusty Hull Daily Mail reported that he's actually in Hull prison. Obviously, that I can't confirm that, I'm just going off what Hull Daily Mail said. Obviously, they're too small to get a Section D. However, his legal counsel, one thing that we have heard is his legal counsel did say to the judge, if you sentence my client to go back to prison, you're giving him a death sentence. He narrowly escaped. I mean, last time he was in prison for, I think he was in prison for about 30 days, if I remember right. And he got attacked half a dozen times. The judge's reply to being told that sending Tommy to prison was giving him a death sentence was, well, he knew what he was getting himself into. Now, taking away the things that Tommy says and his beliefs and all that side of it, just look on the base facts of it. You have a member of our society, a member of our civilization, a member of our community, a member of our citizenship, that's all he's done is exercise his legal and lawful right to question. He left the EDL because it started becoming a racist party. Again, that's just going by what he said. I've never really taken any in-depth look at the EDL or the reasons why he left. I kind of came into all this after that. This is just an example of silencing somebody. And what you need to remember, there's a lot of not very nice comments being made on Facebook and on Twitter, on YouTube. There's a lot of people who are saying that he deserves it, he's a racist, he's a fascist, he's a Zionist. What you need to do is take your head out your ass and realise that one thing Tommy represents is the exact ability for you to be able to put those comments about him. Because if we carry on the way we're going, and this country goes down the path that it's going down, you won't have that ability. Because you will be the next person who gets picked up because of your beliefs, because of your views, because it doesn't agree with the establishment. When you have a British citizen who can be taken off the streets by the police and 4 hours later be in prison without speaking to anybody outside of the system, without any contact to his family or loved ones, when you have that in place, then I'm sorry, but our society's fucked. I listened to Douglas Murray. He's a very educated person, and he diagnoses or analyses what's gone on very well. He said it's a prime example of the establishment of the government not addressing the prime source but going for the secondary source because it's easier. I've also watched a couple of other YouTube videos from an ex-policeman and quite a few educated people. Don't get me wrong, I don't go on and find neo-Nazis or anything like that. I'm not interested in that. If somebody has an opinion and it's an educated opinion, then I'm all for listening to it. Whether it agrees with me or not, I'm all for it. If somebody comes up with an educated reason why what has happened is perfectly fine, then I will happily listen to it. If somebody comes up and starts saying stuff like, well, he just deserves to be in there, it's not an educated opinion. But look, what they've done is they've targeted Tommy because he makes it a public known fact, because he raises awareness behind it. The government refused to attack the prime source, the prime problem. Let's be honest. We have a failing police force. We have a failing government. We have a weak government. Our government is propped up by a small party from Ireland, the DUP. We are getting battered left, right and centre by the EU. Now, it wasn't that long ago that if we just turned our back on the EU and went, fine, if you don't want to work with us, we'll walk away, the EU would have literally gone bankrupt. And yet here we are just getting battered by them because our government is very weak. Unfortunately, there isn't a general election due to come up anytime soon. But I dare say if enough of us convince the DUP to break their agreement with the Tories, that would push us into a minority government and a new election. But then who do you stand with? Who is the out there who's going to support you? Who is the out there who's going to give you free speech? Because you need to realise something. The government, regardless who gets in, Labour, Conservative, even Lib Dem, they don't want you to have a voice. They just want your vote. All these soft bastards on the left, you need to wake up and realise this is your doing, this is your cause. Too long has anybody said, well, if you're not on the left of politics, then you are a far-right extremist. No, you're not. You can be centre-right, you can be right. You can be right-wing, you can be far-right. The same as there's different variations of left, there's different variations of right. But do you know what? Now is the time where you need to forget about left and right of politics. We need to band together because we are in a police state. 1984 is here. And all the people who are thinking that this is an absolutely amazing thing and are celebrating it, wake up. We're in the process of losing our freedoms. We've already lost freedom of speech. Unfortunately, as much as you don't want to admit it, Tommy Robinson is a journalist. Regardless of how you want to view it, he is a journalist. He reports the news via an outlet. He is a journalist. And we've just seen our first case where a journalist who was saying things that the government didn't agree with has been picked up, rushed into a court, a kangaroo court, and then rushed into prison for 13 months. Should we have a look at... Let's have a look at how the Nazi Party started once they got into power. Did they not put whoever didn't agree with them in prison? Oh, sorry, is that too much of a coincidence to compare? Do you know in most of my episodes I refer to America as a test strip, as a petri dish. Have a look at what's happening in America and that's what's going to happen here. Well, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Because I've watched numerous news outlets in America who are now sitting and watching us to see what happens. You've got to think, if we don't have a voice as people, that means we can't keep our government in check. That means they can bring in whatever laws they want, whatever taxes they want. They can do whatever they want. The power used to be with the people. And unfortunately, because we've gone through all this absolute stupidity of political correctness, we don't have the power anymore. The people of the United Kingdom, I don't care whether you're English, you're Welsh, you're Scottish, Northern Ireland, we need to work together. We need to stop from the direct route that we're heading through. Because trust me, Scotland, you want your independence. The way that Westminster's going, you ain't gonna get it. How long would it be before a paddy wagon turned up and put Nicola Sturgeon in the back? Might seem stupid and ridiculous, but if I'd have said to you, a journalist outside a court reporting on a grooming gang has now been arrested and put in prison, you'd have laughed. To everybody who has the illusion that we have free speech, we don't. Where political correctness stands, free speech can't. They cannot work hand in hand, which is all about dictating what you can and can't say. Now remember one thing, free speech, you should be able to say anything you wish, with one exception, with no direct incitement to violence. Look, at the end of the day, if I say something that upsets you or you disagree with, then that's fine. Just because you disagree or because you're upset by what I'm saying doesn't make what I'm saying wrong. Now, I'm at a loss with it all. I don't know where we're going to go with this. The media have been shackled. The media have been shown for what they are. I would have loved just one news outlet when that Section D came out, because they all had reports and I was reading them. And then I'd click onto another link and I'd go back to it and it's gone. Literally, instantly. All these stories went up. There's people in America who have managed to get them through archive drives. People in America were going, why aren't the English people seeing this? Why aren't the people in the UK questioning why the press is being whitewashed? 1 minute the story's there, the next minute they're in. Do they not see this? And do you know what we're doing? We're bending over and taking up the fucking arse like we have done for the last 30 years. And it frustrates me and it upsets me. I'm 33, and even in my short time on the earth, I've seen how society's going down the pan. And there's too many people who sit out there and go, oh, that's bad, innit? Oh, fucking hell. Oh, let's have a look at these selfies on Facebook. Fuck Facebook. And to all the people that want to slag and slate Tommy Robinson, that's absolutely fine, but what you have to understand is there's a part of what he represents in you, and that's the freedom side of it. Forget about Tommy Robinson as the person. Think of him just as the man in front of the tanks at Chinaman Square, or when the Buddhist monk set himself on fire to protest the war. Stop thinking about the individual, because that's what the government pushes you to do. You might dislike Tommy Robinson, that's absolutely fine, that's your opinion. But think about what's fucking happened. He was exposed in a trial of a grooming gang, and he was arrested and he's now in prison. If you cannot see, it's a lost cause. And if the majority of people in this country view like that, then we are fucked. Might as well just give up. So the UK is going to go one of two ways, well, probably one of three ways. The first way, the British are just going to keep their heads down, keep taking up the arse. Things are going to get worse and we're all just going to be miserable. We're going to be oppressed. We'll be in a police state. It'll happen where you'll get your front door kicked in because you put a like on a post on Facebook and the police have taken that as a hate crime. Don't fucking believe me, Google it, it's fucking happening. It's an absolute disgrace. So the second eventual outcome, the majority of people in Britain who can are going to emigrate. They're going to go to Australia, they're going to go to Canada, they're going to go to America, they're going to get out the country. Isn't that sad? Isn't that fucking abysmal? So then you've got the third way. This is the way it should go. Instead of just letting life pass you by, instead of just not paying any interest to what's going on in the world, instead of not just actually getting involved, it doesn't take a great deal. We need to work together. Find a political party that believes in the motives and morals that you believe in and join them. For anybody who's patriot based, I'm not endorsing them. I've recently joined the English Democrats because their manifesto runs very, very close to what I believe. I'm hoping to have a conversation with one or two of them soon, which will then concrete either way my thoughts and opinions about them. There's For Britain, I believe. That's another political party. If you're a patriot, then please give them a look. I'd love to say UKIP, but UKIP's a dying fish. It has some good people in it, but it's a dying fish. In the show notes, I'm going to link to quite a few YouTube videos that you should check out, and hopefully open people's views and concepts, because as much as people, or some people, want to slate Tommy and think it's great what's happened, you have some very, very educated people who are coming out and saying, put Tommy person to one side and look at what's gone on. There's a chance of it going to civil war, and people are talking about that already. And if you think that's stupid and ridiculous, just look across the water into other countries, such as, well, look at the Middle East. 8-year-old kids on the streets firing AK-47s isn't an unusual thing over there. Maybe we should have that in this country, eh? Fucking ridiculous. To everyone who's getting hyped up and who's pissed off, stick with the proper routes. We need to do it. Protest by all means, peaceful protest. Do not give the police a chance to make anybody is a right-wing extremist, because that's all they will do. Do you know what? Don't be scared of being called a racist. Don't be scared of being called a bigot. Don't be scared of being called a right-wing extremist, because I will tell you now, no matter who's listening to this, I will guarantee you are not racist, you are not right-wing extremist. It's the titles and the fucking tags and labels that they attach to you to destroy your credibility. If anybody thinks anything that I've said in this episode or any of the previous ones has been far right, has been racist, has been anything down that route of political fucking correctness, let's talk. I'll happily sit down, record a debate, and do you know what? If you can say that I'm wrong and you can convince me that I'm wrong, you have evidence that I'm wrong, I will hold my hands up and say, yeah, do you know what? I was wrong. But do you know what? I'm going to tell you now, in the world that we're living in now, in the country, we're going down the fucking swan, when the majority of American news outlets and Canada news outlets, and do you know what? A lot of every country out there is watching us and going, shit, their country's going downhill. And they don't seem to really mind. Oh. And if you think, well, what can a few thousand, there's a few 100,000 signatures on the petition to release Tommy Robinson, but what's a few 100,000 people going to do? The way that it'll go, possibly. And it's not a way that I think is creative or constructive or will get us anywhere, but you are going to end up with your far right extremists. You're going to get your massive right-wing political groups from other countries will come here. They'll come here to defend our rights and our freedoms. I'm not saying I agree with how they do it or what their beliefs are, but they'll come here and do that because they believe it's their duty. It's not something I want. I would rather do it through the ballot box, through peaceful protests, and let's just do it professionally. Let's be the nation that we was 50, 60, 70 years ago. Because I tell you something now, we are fucking not. And we're not progressing, we're going backwards. We're going backwards. Now I take a look at Brexit. Do you know Brexit? We're now on the conversation, not when Brexit happens, but if Brexit happens. You all need to realise, whether you voted Brexit in or out, just put that to a side for 1 second. It was a democratic vote, and the vote to leave won. Now even the fact that we're now at a stage where we're looking at, well, if we do leave, does that not tell you that the people do not matter? They are not interested in what you think or what you have to say. And anybody who is against all this of what's going on and who thinks that we're all just pissing in the wind, do you know what? I hope and I pray to God, and I'm not a religious person, but I pray to God that you never get an injustice happen to you. Because that time that you are discriminated against, you are attacked because of your colour, your sexuality, your religious belief, or anything along them lines, and you try and get something done about it and the police just go, we're not really interested, and then your MP, or whoever you then go to, makes it plainly clear they don't give a shit, you're going to be in a very lonely place, because that's when you'll realise that you are in a police state, that they only enforce what they care about. Right, that's my little rant about this subject. I needed to do something. I needed to say something. It's been swirling around my head for a few days. There's still loads that I'd want to say, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm perplexed. I am absolutely perplexed. The fact that this has happened and only a very small percentage of the population have come out against it. Don't get me wrong, we're talking about thousands of people have come out, and some very prominent people have come out. And I just hope that that energy keeps going and we can be constructive and we can work for a better UK. But what surprises me more than anything is how much the general public are just happy to have their rights and their freedoms eroded. Have we really become that sort of, I don't know. I don't know what the proper word would be. I'd like to say soft, but I don't think that's the proper word. Have we really become a nation of people who just really don't care? Well, look, as always, guys, check out the store at skullfill.com. There's some not ashamed but proud t-shirts there, some other bits and bobs. I'm going to say welcome to the family. I don't know how long it's going to be because I'm going to start looking at emigrating to fucking Canada, so welcome to the family for now. As always, take care, motherfuckers.
Thanks for listening. Visit skullfill.com to stay up to date and support the show. See you next time.